Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
We've arrived. It's happened.
We're recording.
We're recording.
We're socially distant.
We are, and I had to like get this set back up again. I had tore it down, and then I was like, "How did I do this? What was the layout?
It took me forever.
It was all wrong. Yeah. The guitar wasn't hanging there, and I just looked like a mess.
How are we supposed to have a podcast if you don't have the guitar here? I had to get the picture.
Yeah,
just right. I had to angle the San Francisco picture.
What you did was you put that one back up, because what's normally there, it's you on that Chase lounge sideways, like leaning
in nothing but leopard print Speedos.
We all know that that's your favorite picture.
It is.
We all know
it's
that.
the one that I put up just for when guests arrive.
Yes, when guests. Well, we're back into the Zoom format.
Yes, and Jacob, why are we back into Zoom format? Should we tell the world? I want to say America, but that's not fair. It's a worldwide audience, and I apologize.
We are a global show. We are a global show, and that's a good catch, because sometimes we talk about being Americans, United States, but we forget that there is a loyal, rabid following of fans.
Yes, fans across the Commonwealth.
Yes. Yeah, but the reason why the Biofriendly Podcast has returned back to our distanced style is because we both left the bubble.
We did. We got to admit it.
We have to confess, guys.
We left the bubble.
We left the bubble.
Yeah,
so do you want to share?
Responsible about it.
Yes,
I want the people in the world to know that we were responsible about our bubble leaving. We've been very pretty much quarantined. You go to work and then you come home and then we do nothing for a long time. But I took my family over the weekend to Zion National Park before the quarantine. Not before the quarantine. Excuse me. Goodness. Before they have to go back to school, because quarantine's never going to end. But before they have to go back to school, which isn't really a thing either. I mean, it is a thing, but they're not going back to school. They're going to home learning. From school. So, but it's a little better now, though. The schools have figured some stuff out. It's kind of cool to see all of the updates we've been getting on how they're going to do it now. A lot more structured.
Yes.
Good. Their classes they're going to be there, like actually have classes throughout the day, and a teacher watching them. So it'll be a little easier on the parents, I think, than before, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll be better prepared, I think, for it now, because they've had some time to figure out what worked and what didn't with the Zoom learning and whatnot. So.
But I'm not the only one who went to a national park, Jacob, to celebrate the end of the summer.
I know. I did the same exact thing, because just like you, we're in August now, and we knew the school year was fast approaching. In normal circumstances, summer trips can be so much more elaborate. You can fly to a destination, you can do something, but because of our limitations, we're fortunate, because California is a treasure trove of drivable, beautiful locations, and so we were like, let's go to Lake Tahoe. And it was tremendous. Yeah. Absolutely tremendous. I've lived in Southern California for almost 20 years, and I've never been up there, which is appalling.
It is appalling.
I'm disappointed.
You disgust me.
I disgust myself. But it was amazing. We stayed in an area called Truckee, which I think you're familiar with.
I'm very familiar. Truckee is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
I love Truckee.
Despite the name, which is so funny.
You'd think it was like a truck stop. But
I know exactly when you name a city.
It's wilderness. It's trees. It's water. It's beautiful.
I think the people who founded Truckee, I think that it was originally called like Paradise Land.
Right.
And people just kept showing up, and they're like, we got to do something. This is out of control.
Impossible.
What could we name this town that makes people feel like they don't want to come here? And they went with Truckee.
They went with Truckee.
Yeah.
And that was a good call, because it is quiet. It's private there.
Most
people don't even know it exists. Most people don't realize that there is a Truckee, or if there's a Truckee, I'm not stopping there.
Right.
They don't quite realize what they've driven past.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But it is charming. It's cute. And like Noel already said, we were very careful. The cool thing about road trips is that you're with your family. You can make some decisions about being safe. And everywhere we would try to stop, it was always in those kind of places where you could see that people were taking things seriously. And especially in Truckee, there was so many. I mean, even in the main drive, when you drive through the town, they had, you know how they put in cities those flags off of like light posts, like if there's like an upcoming event, they had those little hanging flags on every light post. It was like mask on, mask up, and it was really advertised up there. So that was great to see. And
were people fairly distant from each other?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I would say in Truckee, yes. When you went to like the bigger, more touristy areas of Lake Tahoe, you saw a lot of other families, a lot of people from outside coming in, and you saw people that were careful, and then you saw others that you thought, I don't think they're going to be careful. So right. I'm gonna move from 6 feet to 12 feet. I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna double down.
Make sure safety is number one now.
Yeah, that guy
used to be number 6, but now we're pushing safety up to 1.
Yes, that guy's just sneezing willy-nilly in the air, no covers, no hand over it, and you go, all right, let's distance here.
I mean, we had a couple of those too, because Zion, Utah's doing pretty good actually. I think up there, and for those of you who don't know, but the southern part of Utah is drivable very easily from the southern part of California. Yeah, you just kind of skip across the Nevada desert there a little bit, say hi to Vegas, and then you go down to about St. George, just the closest major city. And so it's pretty easy to get to, and easy to get a place to stay with just a family, which was good. But once you get out into the park, like I mean. Yeah, people were really pretty great. In general, it was good distance, and people had masks even though they were outside, and having a social distance of 30 feet was frankly easy. Because it was fairly empty, which was good. However, every once in a while you get the one dude with the mask. Not even like it's around the chin.
My favorite. That's my favorite sighting is the nose or just the mask dangling beneath, and you go, I see the effort of the mask, but it doesn't seem to be doing what it's supposed to be doing here in this circumstances.
And there was one. This guy, he's got it around his chin, and I just filled up our waters. They have these refill stations for waters, or they have the hand washing stations and water refilling stations that are set up for this and. They keep them sanitized and whatever else. Yeah. But in this case, I just filled up the water to handle the water. Thankfully, I had. But walking up right after me, this guy with the mask over his chin walks up, gets up to the refill, and then just starts exploding with coughs. Not doesn't cover his mouth, doesn't look away, doesn't put up his mask, does nothing. And Talia, my wife, who's behind me, has not yet filled up her water. She looks around. So the kids were okay and I'm okay, but Talia's just hosed. So she's like, why? Why would you do that? Right. It ruined a good portion of her trip, I think, just because she's like, I don't understand.
Right.
Yeah, but
it's just very disrespectful, and that would happen to me too. With Tahoe, and even so before we went to Tahoe, and I know we got to get to but our fans, you want to hear about these travels because they're living vicariously through our travels,
right. And they're all traveling too because let's all be honest. Our audience is the most irresponsible audience in all of the world.
We would expect nothing less. I'm proud of you for being irresponsible.
I'm kidding, of course. You are all responsible.
Jokes. We, on the way up to Tahoe, we stopped by the sequoias. We went through the sequoia forest and we saw the General Sherman, which was a recommendation from you.
There's your national forest, folks.
Yes. What'd you think? Oh my gosh. If you don't know what the General Sherman is, the General Sherman tree is the largest tree in the world by volume. It is absolutely stunning to see in person. And the kids were blown away. And the whole journey to get there, when you get to the sequoias and you weave and weave and weave and you get to the giant forest, and then you park and you walk this long path down. It was just phenomenal. That was a really, really cool thing too. And that was, again, a situation where you saw 50-50 people in mass taking it very seriously, and then you saw others that you go, I think that person is going to be a flailing cougher. And so you just, just somebody, so you just have to stand back. Give them her space. But, there was one guy, he was so brilliant because we did a family picture in front of the sequoia, but in front of the General Sherman, and I took a picture of my kids, and then I had my oldest son take a picture of us, and then I just photoshopped us together, and I was like, that's how we're going to get our family photo. But there was a guy there who had a very nice DSLR on a tripod, and then he went over to the tree, and on his phone, he took the picture on the DSLR remotely, and I was like, now that guy knows what he's doing. He is.
I wonder if that's available for old tragic DSLRs like ours, or if you have to have a new one with the new software.
Probably not. You probably have to have some kind of Bluetooth technology built into your or Wi-Fi at least. Well, no, it would have to be because you wouldn't be on a Wi-Fi network out in the middle of nowhere. So it's probably newer cameras, but
Bluetooth probably. I have a T4i.
I have a T2i. I have a T2i.
That's the original almost. Yeah.
It's almost the original. Yeah.
Those are old. Yeah.
Anyway.
But they work, though. Good shots.
Yeah, they do. They still make good.
I took a gorgeous headshot of one Jacob Givens with a T4i.
You sure did.
I looked just recently.
And you only had to get poison oak in the process. So
I know. It's almost gone. It's almost gone for your audience.
You're welcome.
There's a little bit of a something there.
Yeah.
Not there. Yeah.
It's looking great.
Almost gone. Well,
but that leads us weeks later. That leads us to the subject on the Biofriendly podcast today, which we had to catch you guys up on our travels, but it's the perfect time to talk about national forests, land conservation. I think that's since we both have experienced that in person over the last week. I think it's a good time to kind of talk about what that is, what that's all about with national forests, and this might be one of those subjects that Noel knows a lot more about. But while I was digging into it, I have some.
I want you to dig into it. I have some opinions on it that would be considered controversial, probably in the environmental community. But they're not all entirely. I mean, they're not all controversial, and I have a reason behind them, and I'm not stuck on them. But I'll probably say some things.
I want you to share
a lot
them.
of people say I hate the Biofriendly podcast.
Never. No, so most people know that in the United States, I don't know how national parks work for around the world. Do you know, in comparison to like what we have, is it just the same process? They have land that they say this, you can't build here, you can't do anything here. This is national forest. Is it the same globally?
Yeah, basically. I mean, there are definitely intricacies no matter where you go. There's just differences, but basically it's the government entity or the landowner in some cases. There's some parks in other countries, like in Africa, a lot of their reserves are like the places where you're conserving land are owned by people from Europe.
Oh wow.
It's like the king had the land and so then therefore declared it conservation land or whatever, right? So it's not always the case, but often that is. So but go ahead.
Well, it's while I was looking up land conservation and whatnot, I thought this was pretty interesting with our current administration. As of like yesterday or the day before, I don't know how recent this is, there was a landmark land conservation bill signed called the Great American Outdoors Act, which guarantees funding for federal land use efforts. It's $900 million a year. And it will go up to $9.5 billion over the course of the act for national parks, and that was just signed. So it was huge. I know, it's a big win.
How come that's not big news?
I know, that's what I was kind of like.
Why are we talking about COVID?
Right.
When this is happening.
Right. And I thought, we are a show that will celebrate a win no matter where you stand on the aisle on things politically, because we really do believe that the environment is not a political issue. And when I see stuff like this, I'm like, this should be getting a lot more attention. It's a good thing.
It's an act. So that means it went through Congress and the Senate. It's not an executive order. So this is like actually... That means it was done by our government properly.
Yeah, it says broad bipartisan support. It was brought forward. There were two Republican senators that were really big in making this happen, which it says the act, which allocates $900 million a year to the Land and Water Conservation Fund and provides up to $9.5 billion over 5 years to begin clearing up a maintenance backlog at national parks. So it was approved on a 310 to 107 vote in the House, and it was introduced last year. Yeah,
that's a whooping.
It was introduced last year by Representative John Lewis, Georgia Democrat and civil rights leader, who passed away last month. So it was his kind of introduction. But what a great tribute!
It should be even bigger news, because that's
exactly.
I mean, with the news of his passing, that should be like another feather in his cap, for a job well done.
So the world can count on the Biofriendly podcast to break the good, heartwarming stories that are being hidden by pandemics and
every
sad
once
stuff.
in a while your government gets it right. America.
Yes, every now and then. Yeah.
Not often. I don't want to make them feel too good.
Yeah, let's not hold our breaths here. But it is exciting when you see something like this happen. You know, once we decided we were going to talk about national parks, the first thing that I see is about this act, and I'm like, that should be, you know, the headlines. That should be popping up on my phone, and it's just not. So very cool.
All right, well, we got to tune our phones better.
Yeah, I guess so.
We're not getting good news. We're just getting more bad news.
I think they intentionally only push the bad stories to people. I think that's like a whole thing about owning mobile devices is they just want you to be as upset and emotional as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I guess then you spend more time on the mobile device.
Exactly. That's the goal. If every article that popped up on your phone was positive, you'd be like, yay, I don't need to look at this thing anymore.
Life is wonderful. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to live the dream.
I'm going to follow my dreams.
I think I could be productive now.
Exactly.
I'm going to write the great American novel.
Exactly. They don't want that. They want you to just keep looking and consuming it. But anyway, everybody, at least you've been to a national park, you visited, and we always hear about the benefits of preserving land, and those are obvious. You go, okay, we're gonna reduce, you know, air pollution, water pollution. We're gonna save wildlife. We're going to have a lot of benefits. But I was curious. Is there a negative side? And I found something that really intrigued me that was a thing that people should be aware about. And this may be the subject that you wanted to get to, or maybe it's different. But it was basically one thing that can happen from conservation policies that can backfire that I found is that if you focus on preserving a certain amount of land, right? Yeah. And there are resources that are pulled from that land for consumers, you know, whether it's wood or energy or, you know, wild food sources, fish, whatnot. The problem is called slippage. Right. And slippage can mean that then the consumer demand for this item, they can't get it from there anymore.
Right.
So they're going to go somewhere else. Right. And they're going to get it out of our country, or they're going to get it from a place that you're not supposed to. And so I read this article. It was basically it was like here's an example of how this happened. Okay. So there was a problem of bycatch in fishing and catching food in the ocean for people. And it said fishermen accidentally catch non-target species such as sharks, sea turtles, and dolphins. Right. That's
why I only have dolphins from Tuna Safe Net.
Yes.
Whenever I eat dolphin.
Yes, you have to. Yeah. And I only catch my own shark. That's right. I catch my own shark. I ride it first, and then I have it.
Well, I mean, you're a water cowboy.
I've earned it. So we're kidding, guys. Is to reduce. So they put into this thing to reduce local catch limits. So when they did that, the United States curtailed Pacific swordfish catch between April 2001 and March 2004 to protect the sea turtles. Right. What happened was U.S. wholesalers imported more swordfish from other country fleets operating in the Western and Central Pacific, then subsequently caught more swordfish to meet the U.S. market demand. In the process, the number of sea turtles unintentionally hooked by fishermen increased by 3,000. So in that you can't catch as much here, people went, okay, but people still want this. The demand is high.
Right. So we're going to go get it from this country.
Right. And so,
now they don't have turtles.
Yes. Right. And so that was what's fascinated me was that especially it's very common for you to think that you've solved a problem if the problem in front of you has gone away.
Right.
Right? We talk about that a lot. If you go, here's a problem right in front of my face, let's get rid of the problem. Then you think, well, we solved the problem. And that's not true. What's happened is you've probably moved the problem elsewhere. Oh, he's got to hide the family curtain.
Yeah, otherwise people are going to see all the
secrets.
Craziness that happens in my house.
Yeah, so, no, but was this the thing that you were going to touch on? Maybe even more. Yeah,
one of several. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that developed countries have a tendency to get in the way a lot. Like we in the name of help, in the name of doing the right thing, a lot of times we get in the way. We screw things up. Yeah. So like it's funny. You talk about like what is something from a conservation area that people want, and now they can't get. Now it's a conservation area so now they have no way of getting it. An interesting thing that we do, and we did this in the Congo. Mm-hmm. There's the Virunga National Park, I believe it's called, or the Virunga.
Yes, Virunga with an N, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, Virunga.
Thank you. Yeah. So you had in there local people from the Congo who knew how to work that land, knew how to go into that jungle, get food, get wood, get goods, do what they had to do, survive, get in, get out, make a living.
Yeah.
And not disturb the natural wildlife, right?
Yeah.
Like they do it pretty well. They weren't disturbing the gorillas that are preserved in that area.
Right.
So it kind of worked. It was not a problem. But then we come in, we dirty Europeans, I'm calling us dirty, because we kind of are. We're just Europeans that have been moved to another continent.
Right. Right.
And we start to see these wonderful, mythical gorillas, and we see all this land, and we see this is cool, and so we start to try to capture them, because we want to put them in zoos. Let's get baby ones. But when you take a gorilla's baby, you deal with mom and dad gorilla, and they mess you up and they kill people, and then then we start shooting the gorillas, and then it becomes a whole nightmare. So the idea was good. Let's protect these gorillas. Let's make this a place of conservation. So they did. Right, and it's now the idea is we're now protecting these gorillas, but in the process of doing that, the decision was, well, then no humans are allowed to go in here unless they're coming to help the effort, to pay money to help the forest and to maybe observe with us the gorillas and to be at a safe distance and all that stuff. Which again, good in theory, but you push all the locals now out of what it is that they have been doing for millennia.
Right.
And you tell them, well, no, here's a farm. You can be a farmer. And they're like, I don't know how to be a farmer. That's not what I do. I go into the forest and I gather wood or whatever.
Yeah.
So they try to make it up, but then they don't do as well as a farmer. And then beyond that, like you'll have everything that lives and is protected in this jungle comes and eats the food on the surrounding farms. They steal your stuff, so you can't even be that good of a farmer because there's a jungle full of animals. You're like, wow, free potatoes.
Right.
So then it kind of screws up a system that already existed because we went in and messed it up. And then also, you don't necessarily then protect the gorillas, because what happens then is the locals then say, well, we hate the fact that you're in here conserving our land that was our land that you took away from us. So in order to show you that we're serious, because they can't rise up against their own government or anyone who's doing that, they just go in and they kill the gorillas, because that's what you're trying to conserve, as a way of being like, here's
as a way to oppose the conservation. Right.
So there can be problems if you don't kind of go in with the locals in mind and work with the people who are there and say, like, okay, so you don't mess with the gorillas and you're doing what you're doing, and that's fine. So you should be able to keep doing that.
Yes.
You can keep doing that, and that's fine if you don't mess, because you live here. So that's okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep the white people out.
Right.
So that's, I think, but we don't think that way. That's not really. So anyways, it's.
No, you're on target with what it was talking about, which is, when you do land conservation, whenever you're going to conserve something, you have to kind of you have to look at all avenues. The only way to combat this problem is if there's a resource that is being used in there, you have to work with the community locally and not just take everybody's rights away in all occasions. For example, let's list tequila as an example, to bring it to a valuable resource,
natural resource, tequila.
Tequila, you think about, hundreds and hundreds of years, you have an agave, which has gone out and collected to make some of the best tequila. And right now, during a pandemic where people...
And we've been to Jalisco, by the way, the capital of agave. You've been there, right, with us?
I have not been to Jalisco yet, but you're gonna take me when we can go.
Yeah, we have a plant in Jalisco, our own Green Plus processing area in Guzman. It's good. Jalisco is.
I can't wait to go.
Amazing,
right?
It's amazing.
So in a time right now that there's been numbers that say people are at home, so tequila sales have gone through the roof, right? You got people that are at home and they're going, I want to make margaritas, I want to relax, and I only want the best tequilas. I want the tequilas with the greatest agave ever because I have refined tastes and I deserve this, right?
Yes.
So the demand just keeps going up and up and up and up. But suddenly they discover that this agave that's making this fine tequila is coming from a land that's very, rare. There's a lot of rare plants and wildlife and, and so somebody comes in and they say, nobody can go in here anymore. And you have to protect all the wildlife and all the land. You can't get the agave from here. Now your fine tequila's gone. And in order for them to get your demand to meet it, they're going to go find it elsewhere just to make it. And maybe it won't even be as good. So the point being that this community of people that have gone in for hundreds of years and sold this product oftentimes know what they're doing, know how to extract this thing without harming the environment, and us stepping in and controlling the situation is not always the right thing. Now, of course,
particularly when we're outsiders.
Yes, when we're outsiders.
Nobody has done a better job at deforestation than people in first world countries.
Yes.
The people in the developed nations. I mean, our forests are gone. They're farms now. They're gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've already done what's happening in other areas that we're trying to conserve, and we're just like, oh, dude, that was dumb.
Yeah.
we
Exactly.
We shouldn't let them do this.
Right.
Right. And so it gets complicated, right?
It gets complicated
when you start to think about how we got to where we are economically and as a culture. I mean, we got where we are because we figured out how to farm using less land. We figured out a lot of things. Technology helped us do things a little bit better.
Yeah.
But unless we're going to go in and be truly responsible and take the amount of money and time necessary to help developing countries get to where we are and skip all of those steps, we've got to be really thoughtful about what we tell them to do with their land and what we tell them to do with their stuff, because you can't just go in and say, well, you can't do that. I'll say, okay, well then how do you make these farms work with only this much land and baboons eating all of our food?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to put up electric fences to keep them out. Okay, well, can we have electric fences? Well, I don't have enough money to give you an electric fence. Yeah. Okay, well then I want to go in the forest and gather wood.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so that is, and so I would say this was a good learning opportunity for me because, when you talk about land conservation and forest conservation, all of these things, the obvious thought, and which we agree, it is a good thing to protect species. It is a good thing to protect forests and land. It is a good thing. I don't want
people to develop Zion National Park. I don't want people to develop over the General Sherman. Yes. I don't want any of that. I want us to reforest some of the areas that we don't use anymore.
Right.
I'm not against conservation in the slightest. This isn't, and that's the part that I think I got to make clear when I say all this. It's not that. I just think that we've got to be more thoughtful about it.
Yes.
That's all.
And that's the heart of this episode for you listening, is that I wanted to bring up that topic because I think that when you see this good news about land being protected and money being invested in protecting our forests and wildlife and nature in the United States, we're excited about that. We're excited that was introduced and that will be put in motion. The thing that you start to think about it, you have to look at both sides always and go, but where could it become problematic? And it's always about, we just have to put that extra bit of thought into when you start saying that somebody can't touch a certain type of land or can't go into a certain kind of land to, Well, I mean, you can look in the Amazon, right? Right.
So the Amazon is a great example of that. So obviously we don't want to burn down. You talk about where you have so much interesting, wonderful wildlife that we still don't even know, right? I mean, that obviously I don't want to see the Amazon gone any more than anyone else, right? It doesn't. I don't get excited to find out that the Amazon is burning. And by the way, Jacob pointed something out that I want people to realize that when we talked earlier today. More Amazon burned this year than last year,
and we haven't heard one bit about it.
And COVID, I guess, is going on, right? So it's,
remember last.
This latest fire in Australia was not the biggest wildfire that Australia's had. It was the 6th biggest wildfire Australia's had.
Right.
So I just we got to remember that we're also we are a society in the developed countries that needs to be distracted by apparently bad news.
Yes.
And so we're going to get whatever bad news it is and be told this is the worst bad news ever when it's not necessarily.
Right.
Anyways, that was a tangent that I shouldn't have gone on.
No, but you're right. It's fair pointing out that last summer we did an entire podcast about the Amazon being on fire because all you saw on the news was that. And I have not seen 1 ounce of it this summer. So that should tell people something.
Because it's normal. I hate to say it's normal, but it is normal. And it's normal because we are dumb at conservation.
Right.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
So but before this recent uptick in fires, people were farming in a different jungle, a different forest, and I wish I had the name of that one, but it's to the south of the Amazon. It's gigantic, but it's different. It's not. Okay. It doesn't have the same species. Doesn't have the same amount of wildlife. It's not as old growth of a forest. It's the Amazon. Like the Amazon, the thing that makes it unique is that you've got trees that are in there that are just they've been there forever.
Right.
And whenever you have old growth forest, you can have some species that live there that are specific to that forest because they've had time to evolve in it. Yeah. So there's stuff in that you don't want to lose because you don't know what it is. You don't know what it's. You need to give it a chance, right?
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me the most about burning the Amazon is I don't want to lose that, right? Because new growth is fine and you can get some life that can go into that and that's great, but the stuff that's been there for thousands of years needs to still be there.
Exactly.
It just we can't lose it. And that's where I am a conservationist.
Yeah.
But what happened was in Brazil, it was determined that these forests that were not old growth that were in the south were the same as the Amazon, and they're not. It's just not the same.
Right.
And you used to have a lot of farmers who were doing their work in the south in those forests.
Yeah.
Now they can't. So you've got a situation where you had a place that they could make it work. It's like, okay, well, this isn't maybe we prefer to burn down the Amazon, but you don't want us to, and you've at least given us another option that we can go with. Now you take away the other option. And it's like pretty much at that point, people who are starving and want to have a job and want to feed their family and want to have a decent life, they basically say, here's the middle finger to you, rest of the world. You're not going to stop me from doing that. And so then they go and they burn up their forest. Again, it's about being thoughtful when you go into someone else's area and tell them what to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, come up with something that makes sense that they can work with, that they can live with, and then you'll have less burning in the Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's not that I don't want to save the Amazon, and and it's not that I'm super pro farmer, although I am kind of pro farmer. I'm pro people being able to live.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, let's try to be. Let's try to find solutions that people can actually follow through with, that people can actually do.
Yeah, it goes back to when we had Conservation X Labs on the show. Is that it's about
brilliant, wonderful people. By the way, I'm with them. I love them. I want them back.
Yeah, that's why I want them back on the show. And I was going to say they're doing exactly what we're talking about, which is they're understanding that conservation is a complex thing and requires brilliant out-of-the-box thinking.
It does.
It requires people to go, okay, how can I save this species? How can I get the resources? How can we all come together and save Earth, but also not completely wreck a local tribe that has been living off the land for 1,000 years? How can we conserve life? So it's conservation for everyone. Right?
Favorite things about Conservation X Labs is so much of what they do is finding new technology, finding new responsible technologies that can be implemented to handle a situation without making it worse.
Right.
And that's what we've got to do. To me, we've got to use our brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's figure out a way to make this work so that you aren't hosing the people who live there.
Yeah.
But you also are keeping the species that we need to keep alive. Because I personally believe that we are in the middle of a sixth mass extinction. Right?
Yes.
And I think that's going
absolutely.
on. And there's, just like everything, there's debate on that. So fine, okay. Well, I've heard that, and I get the point of the debate being made. But I don't agree with it. I think that we are doing more damage than we should right now to the species, and I think that we can stop it. And that's something that Conservation X Labs is big on, is that we can do something. We can stop this. If we actually think about it for a minute, put some attention on it, and put some energy into finding solutions with our minds, we can fix this. We can get around it. And so I'm a big supporter of that, and I don't want that to be lost in my, my odd thoughts, I suppose, on environmentalism and conservation.
No, not odd thoughts at all. Again, we are a show that has always, since the beginning, it is really easy to latch onto a talking point and use it to sell and push headlines and say, this is what's going on, and never looking at both sides of the coin. But we really only get a chance to improve as a people if you're always doing that. If you're always looking at, well, why? Okay, if people are burning, if people are deforesting, what was the cause of it and why? Well, it's because of these resources. Oh, well, then if we put this law into place that you can't touch land, they're going to go elsewhere. They're going to go elsewhere.
Right.
So
why wouldn't we if they keep getting new farms, they keep moving and destroying land and then going somewhere else and then destroying that land, why aren't we putting together programs that help them to reinvigorate the land that they're on?
Yes.
Because you can keep the same land working if you're smart about it, if you have the right farming practices, if you have the right tools, if you have fertilizer, if you have the right things that you need in order to keep it going, you can do it.
Yeah.
But you got to show them how. So if you're going to say don't burn down the forest, let's not just say you can't burn down the forest. Let's say don't burn down the forest. Here's what you can do that'll keep you making money and keep you going.
And keep your culture and your people fed and roofs over your head and keep your society going, because that's what we want. Is that conservation as a species as well as humans is we got to conserve people also. And
you can't pretend that people aren't going to want to keep living.
Yeah, right.
You can't that isn't going to work. So if you say you can't do this, and then the person now can't survive, they can't work, they can't put food on the table. Yeah. They're not going to listen to you, because at some point those survival instincts kick in and you just do what you have to do.
Right.
And you don't care.
Right.
So unless you give people options, they're going to do what they have to do.
Exactly.
Because that's what we are. We're survivors.
We're survivors. We're survivors.
We're not the believers. I don't know the lyrics of that song, but I love it.
I only know it's a very catchy song that I don't know any other words except for Survivor. Right.
She can fix this problem just with her music.
Absolutely. If we just play, it's Beyonce, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
100%. If we just let Beyonce sing about the problem,
then we'll be fine.
Go away.
Okay, so maybe we should just go in a van, drive around the world playing Beyonce, and maybe everything will come together and we'll all be okay.
I've not heard a better solution yet.
I love it. Well, essentially that was the subject for today was land conservation and the pros of it, the cons of it, and really how it's about having a conversation. I mean, because we live in a very globally linked world now. We're all talking to each other. We're all, the resources are coming from all over the place, and so there's never been a more important time for us to be like, hey, let's talk this through before we just slap down rules that you don't understand.
Absolutely. Because I think that's when it comes to conservation. I think in the end, most of these problems exist because somebody wanted something or somebody was trying to get something. Yeah. And then they overdid it. They went too far, right? We're running out of elephants and turtles because people want people want turtle shells. On the turtle shells, that was like the first form of plastic. That's what it was. Yeah. And it worked just like plastic. You could heat it up and you could reform it and you can turn it into things, and it's this incredible material. And people are like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. Turtle shells. With elephants, the reason they're running out of elephants is because ivory for a long time was the only thing you could make a piano key out of. Right. It's the only thing you could make a billiard ball with. Right. And it was this incredible material. And I was like, well, there's nothing like this on Earth. Okay, well, technology gave us things that are better, frankly. Right. Plastic is better. The actual plastic is better than a turtle shell.
Right.
You can do more with it. You have more options. So that saves a turtle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we gotta keep that in mind. Is that this is another aspect to the whole argument, right? Like we don't need ivory anymore. The fact that people are still getting ivory is absurd to me. Because we have better options.
Yeah.
Like we didn't before. Now we do.
Yeah.
And some of those are bad for the environment. And we need to find better solutions for that. We have to keep getting better. I understand that.
Yeah.
But there are upsides to technology, and there are reasons why we need to conserve, right?
Yes.
And so if you get to the bottom of why are people killing elephants, and you solve that, then people will stop killing elephants.
Right.
That's it's us. We're the man. I totally embrace the fact that people say, well, we are the problem. I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But we're pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get us to solve problems if you can. Pretty easy to fix us if you solve our problems.
Yes, if you educate and teach us another way that's better, we'll probably do that other way that's better.
Put together a marketing machine to show how it's better, and then go and do so this is again we keep going back to it. Electric cars aren't popular because they're environmental. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not popular because they're environmental. They're not they are environmentally better than the other option. Okay,
right.
I'm done with that. But there are so many problems with electric vehicles. And the amount they are going to be the problem of tomorrow. 100%. I don't even doubt it. They are going to be the environmental problem of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because there's so much about the battery that is a nightmare.
Yeah. So we have to keep being better, keep trying, keep innovating.
But it's better. So then we go. So then we work. Okay, we'll have to get to better batteries. We just have to keep doing that and keep working at it until eventually we maybe are perfect. Although that's probably not going to happen either.
Well, maybe we'll run cars on Beyoncé. Maybe Beyoncé. Maybe cars. The future will only be powered by Beyoncé's music. So it's just the voice itself drives the car. That's what I'm thinking. That's the future I want to live in.
That's the future I love. I realize I just tangented myself out of my original point. That's electric cars. I'm going to finish this point. Electric cars aren't popular because they're environmental. Electric cars are popular because they were marketed well and because they're better.
Right. So
they're better.
Your point being that
if you marketed the solution for ivory, and it is better, I already know it's better. If you marketed it as better and did a good job of that, then people would stop needing ivory.
Right. And people would stop needing the certain kind of thing that is farmed or the resource that's pulled from the Amazon. If you change what we're getting to something better, you can market something new that won't require us to devastate the land. You know what I mean? So.
Yes, and then you wouldn't devastate the local communities, right?
Yeah.
Because locals in Africa pretty much think conservation's a bad word.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
They don't like it. They don't like conservationists. They think they're just horrible white people coming in to ruin their life.
Right.
So that doesn't work either. So
and that's
the answer to your question.
Wait, what was my question again?
Why should we be conservationists?
Yeah, no. It was great. It was it was perfect.
I don't know. Oh goodness, that's terrible.
You have a sweat
I'm sweating in my house. I have sweat stains. I just did the arm.
Don't worry. I've got one to match. I got one to match. So I'm right there with you,
buddy.
buddy.
So embarrassing. I didn't put on deodorant and everything.
Don't worry about it, man.
I got so worked up, Jacob.
Dude. Here's one thing: is we're environmentalists, and environmentalists are allowed to be super sweaty.
Super.
Like that is that goes with the territory. You can just be sweaty and stinky because they're like, oh, he's a greenie. Yes. He's totally It's
okay.
So it just comes with the turf.
Yeah. But no, let's keep. My big thing is let's be really thoughtful when we're going to someone else's place.
Yes.
And then in our own place, I think that because we're a developed nation, and because in Europe, most of the people who listen to our show live in a developed nation. So this is good for all the people who are listening to the show, for the most part. You should absolutely fight for conservation where you live.
Yes.
You should absolutely, because there is no reason why we can't pull it off. We have cities now. We can stack people on top of people. We can keep people out of the jungle. We can keep people out of the forest for the most part, except to appreciate it. Right? We're not. Where we live with the technology we have, you should fight for conservation wherever possible, and you should try to keep more land as it is, to be left alone, and for wildlife to live in it. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're leaving the developed world and going into, into the places that are developing, it's important, and it doesn't stop being important. But you have to really, we have to be more thoughtful. We just have to be more thoughtful about it. That's my opinion.
That's the Biofriendly Planet's official stance on this is be more thoughtful, people. Okay.
That's it, people. Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Good. That's good. That's
good,
time.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I know it's good when Noel gets the feels going. I know we get a good topic when you get excited and you sweat.
I sweat.
I'm always sweating. You rarely sweat.
I don't usually sweat. This is very unusual.
I love it.
Now.
Yeah,
so
show
gross.
it off now.
So gross. But it's happening.
Well, we've been your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Featuring greater parasympathetic nerve activity.
More than just charismatic megafauna.
Dolphins don't quit.
Nature is perfect. Look at eggs.
We are y'all inclusive.
I mean, that is...
We did it!
That was the most flawless run without pauses or considerations or anything. We
Ever.
have hit our stride in August.
I can't believe it. We have a few more months. We got to add another tag. This is
We got to add
easy.
another tag because now we've got it down so well that you have to challenge ourselves again. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Just for one day, we should do last year's. That would screw us up.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to go back and listen to see. But yeah, man, it was good stuff. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll probably be doing a couple more of these and then work our way back together in the office soon. Yep. But thanks for tuning in.
Stay safe out there.
Stay safe. We love you. Talk to you soon.
Ya.
Okay.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.